All right. Welcome to a bonus weekend AMA where usually start off with a topic. For those of you who don't know, we usually do one of these every week. And we're doing an extra one. The bonus is because we're pretty close to 50,000. We're about 200 off. So it's going to happen the next 2-3 days from when this live stream goes live. But I have time to do it right now. And if you know anything about using your time wisely, you do things when you have the time available because you may not, next few days. So, don't procrastinate, but you can put off today. So we're about 200 subs short, but we'll be there in a couple days, 2-3 days. But I want to talk a little bit about, as people come in here, about setting goals and what to do when you accomplish them. So in my case, one of my goals was to hit 50,000 subscribers as sort of a mini goal to get to the 100,000 subscriber sort of mark for YouTube, because then they send you a little placard and it sort of, in my mind, solidifies your success on the platform. Now, have I been successful on YouTube to a degree, right? Much more so than I thought it would be. It provides me 4 figures of income. It has been excellent for my career, and in that aspect has been very successful. But there's always been milestones of, okay, what's the first goal? What's the second goal? And the same goes for how I take an approach at all my goals. Is you have to understand is there is no finish line. You know what I mean? It's not like you hit the finish line and then, if life is a race, if your goals are a race, it's not you hit the finish line and then you stop running. It's more so like it's a marathon where you hit that line and you're passing the torch off to another version of yourself where you're trying to go to the next line. So a great example of this is in my professional career, where I got my first dev job, and the developer I am 2 years from where I was 2 years ago is just like tenfold the quality of developer that I am. And if you watch my second year as a developer video, which came out last week, and it talks about what I was able to accomplish this year, and it's been quite a bit, and I'm gonna try and strive to continue that progress in year 2 to 3. So like this year, I'll be setting up. So a couple things that I already have in the books. And we wrapped up my second year like a week or two ago, or a week. And two things I already have that are getting done once this whole buying a home thing gets wrapped up is I will be getting a Scrum or Agile certification from Scrum Alliance. And I'm also going through a 10-week coding, software quality assurance bootcamp with Dev Mountain in exchange for videos. I'm sponsored by them and whatnot. So those are things that I'll be accomplishing this year, as well as I'm reading 2 books right now. And, it's when you accomplish a goal, you get some value out of it. That's great. But the real value you get is setting up those skills and setting up the work ethic to continue to, the amount of effort and energy I've put in the last 2 years to getting better. If you're able to continue that for 2 more years, for 3 more years, the payback that you'll get from accomplishing your goals are phenomenal. And so when you have goals, what you have to understand is it's goal 1 that leads to goal 2 that leads to goal 3. Those are the things that you have to understand when you set goals. It's not a finish line. It's just a continuation. And so how do we get better? Okay, so I'm buying a house. Great. Are we done? No. It's just one of many investment properties. It's just one of many situations where, cool, we got the first one out of the way. That's a big major milestone, but it's not the last one in the housing department. It's like, cool, we got a promotion and pay bump, and as a dev, all right, cool. How do we get the next promotion and pay bump? How do we continue to progress? How do we continue to grow? How do we continue to get better? What are the next goals? What are the goals that, all right, we accomplished this one. I didn't want to look past it at the time because it's hard to accomplish goals, but we did it now. What's next? All right, now we have to think about these things. We have to move forward, because And also we have to think of how we're going to accomplish them, not just what we want. I think the biggest issue people have with goals is that they just assume that something's going to happen. They just assume that whatever it is that they want in life, it's going to show up one day just by living life, or they're going to figure it out. Let me tell you this, and this goes for a lot of people who think they're just going to go to college and like the passion's going to hit them. That may never happen. In fact, that probably will never happen. The reality of the situation is you have to sit down and you have to make choices about what it is that you're trying to accomplish in life and work towards them and come up with plans how you're going to get there. If you want to be a developer, just don't think that it's just going to happen. You have to make a game plan, and you have to be willing to keep changing that game plan and maneuvering and seeing what does work for you, what doesn't work for you. And so your goals are things you are actively chasing. You know, those are the things that you're going to accomplish. Those are the things that you're going to work towards. And when you have a plan, you have something to work towards them. When they're this sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of dream. When goals are more dreams. See, the thing about goals is they're accomplishable. You say, okay, I do A, B, and C. Goal is accomplished. People have these dreams which they don't really think about, and they just, I dream one day of doing this. Okay, well that's great, but let's turn it into a goal where we can come up with a game plan of how we're going to get there, how we're going to continue to grow, and how we're going to get that dream to be a goal. And I don't want to think I'm focusing too much on like nomenclature and wording and stuff like that, but I really do want you to understand that people dream of doing things. Well, stop dreaming about it and start creating a plan of action to accomplish that goal. So that's my 2 cents on goals. I've accomplished quite a few in the last year or two, and hopefully continue to accomplish some and continue to grow. So let's see here. We got some questions. So when I moved from Los Angeles to Florida, I did book an Airbnb for 10 days. Essentially the cheapest house I could find that was 20 minutes from my work. It was like $14 a day, something like that after the discount. So what happened after that? I stayed in it about 2 days, and I went on Craigslist and I looked for a room to rent, and then I rented a room. That's essentially the TLDR version. Is I found a room to rent with a bunch of maybe like 25 to 30-year-old guys and rented a room. Do I ever see myself trying out for a PM role or even Scrum Master? No. I think in reality, if I was ever going to go and do sort of a non-dev role, it'd probably just be a management role within software. It would be such a financial step down. Like, forget the fact that I just don't want to do it. Just from a financial standpoint, it would be a real big pay cut to go and be a project manager or Scrum Master in most cases. Have I ever known a dev who went from blue collar, like in construction, to a dev job without a degree? I mean, I've known a lot of devs who, I went from pizza delivery driver and I was sort of doing construction without a degree to a dev. So I guess that counts. But most of the devs I know, they've made transitions in their career. They have, I would say about 50% of them have degrees. And of that 50%, about half of them have a STEM degree and the other half have something completely unrelated, an art degree, biological science, some crap like that. At your job, do you work on certain features by yourself, or are you assigned entire applications to build? It depends. I've had both. It depends on what needs to be done. When I first started out, they had me build out entire applications on my own because they were internal applications. They weren't going to be very client facing. They were going to be they were more the business was more okay with delays and potential errors because we were going to be using it in-house. So I was building something for the company to use. In terms of building certain features, I do that now. That's essentially my entire role. And in that case, it's very client facing, and more than anything else, that's just part of development. You switch between different aspects of it time and time again. What do you do to stay committed and never let go of your goal? In my situation, I always have distractions. What do I suggest? So the first thing that you can do immediately is do your best to get rid of distractions. A lot of people suffer from too much television, too much gaming. Get rid of your television. Get rid of your game systems. Quite literally, get rid of them. That's what I had to do. And another thing is you sort of have to mature. I mean, that's the honest answer is I have too much distractions. It's not really you are allowing yourself to be distracted. Do you understand? It's not like these are things that are out of the realm of your control. You are saying that these things are more important than what my goals are that I'm trying to accomplish, and thus I don't want to accomplish them as bad as I would like to have. These are hard things. It's not easy to accomplish a goal. See, the thing about goals is you have to put time, effort, and energy into it without getting a reward right away. And so you have to be patient. You have to understand that, hey, I'm putting 200 hours into this thing, and for those 0 to 200 hours, I'm getting nothing back. Absolutely nothing. And so a lot of people really struggle with that. A lot of people struggle with the fact that they're getting no return until they do, right? Until they accomplish that. And so, you're going to have to study. You're going to have to do this and that. And it's not always the funnest thing. You don't always have a ton of energy because life is happening, right? And so sometimes you have to sit down and bite down on sort of that metaphorical mouthpiece and just do it. And you have to learn how to essentially mature and handle those distractions like an adult. How long in your dev role were you contacted by Google and other big tech companies? What role did they want you for? I mean, for the most part, they interview you. So when I've interviewed with Microsoft or I've interviewed with Google and all those sort of companies, depending on the company, they want you for two different things. So like some companies, for the most part, you're interviewing. So like when you interview at Microsoft, they interview you for Microsoft. They don't really care about the role that they're interviewing you for. In that case, I was interviewed on for a front-end role for Microsoft, but I didn't get asked any front-end questions. The reason for it is that they essentially want you to be with the company for life. And if that's the case, they want to make sure that you can essentially transition to any role. So in that case, that was maybe a year and a half. Not a year and a half, a year and like 3/4. But I've been interviewed by Google, Facebook, and Amazon with about 1 year experience. What do you use for version control? I use Git. I mean, 95% of the industry uses Git. I just use the terminal. Although some people use sort of the helper apps. What is the best site to find developer jobs? I mean, I just use LinkedIn for the most part. But the best way to get a developer job is through reference. How are juniors supposed to find jobs when they require 3 years of experience and a degree? I mean, I found one with no years of experience and no degree. But the thing is, you just have to be good. That's it. I think a lot of people where they suffer is they don't really realize what it takes to be a good developer. And a lot of juniors being people who haven't necessarily worked in the industry yet, that 0 years experience, is they expect that some company out there is going to groom them so that they can be a quote unquote real developer. That's just not how it works, man. Companies, they don't want to spend time, energy, and resources investing into you. A good senior developer is going to be 6 figures, and they want that 6 figures plus guy to be doing stuff that's going to grow the business, that's going to provide business value. Them spending 3 to 6 to 9 months grooming a junior developer is a huge financial drawback, especially when the majority of junior developers are going to leave for a pay raise in 6 months to a year and a half. So if you're expecting that to happen, the first thing you have to understand is you need to get out of that junior category. You need to up your skills on your own time. And once you have the skills, it doesn't really matter. I've interviewed people with 0 years experience, and I've interviewed people with 20 years experience. And what's surprising is oftentimes the people with 3-4 years experience, they're the people that are up to date on the latest stuff. So you just need to have an impressive portfolio. You need to have an impressive skill set, and you need to be good. That's the truth of the matter. And those, they require minimum 2 years experience, sort of entry level roles. If you can do the job, that's really all people care about, right? How long did it take you to feel good about your skills? I don't know, man. I mean, that's always a tricky question, but um, I mean, because sort of what you're really asking in an indirect way is, at what point did you stop feeling like you had imposter syndrome? Because that's what I sort of mean. I think it means when you feel good about your skills, you're like, damn, man, I'm actually a decent developer. I don't, I belong here, right? I'm good. So um, honestly, the job market has sort of helped me with that more than anything else. I know how much time I put into things. I would say in the 2 years that I've put in, it could easily be equivalent to 7 or 8 years for a average developer of just what I've put in outside of work. And so maybe 5 years on the low end, because I'm growing so much faster than the average developer who doesn't want to put the time in outside of work, and that's okay. That's up to them. Not everyone has to go all in. But for me, when I took my current role, I had 3 or 4 job offers, and when I renegotiated my salary, I had 3 or 4 job offers at one time, and I think I mean, I had a subscriber just yesterday reach out to me and say, "Hey, man, you want to come work at my company?" Like, like quite literally just yesterday. And so to me, the feel good is just the understanding of like that, eliminating that imposter syndrome, and the result, or what sort of helps me overcome that, has always been the fact that, you know what, I can't trick all these guys, you know what I mean, like that I'm killing it, and I'm working hard, and I'm good at what I do. And so that was when other people could tell, when other companies could tell that I was good, I suppose, is when I killed the imposter syndrome. Were you serious when you said if you can solve algorithms, you're in the top 10% of developers? Yes. Basic whiteboarding algorithms, you're in the top 10%, because most people, you have to understand, they just don't, man. They don't go out, they don't grind, they don't grow, and they don't write whiteboard code that, you know. What's up, baby? Hey. Oh, hi, baby. um but yes, I was serious about that, and you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many people are below where they need to be. Oh, how do I feel good enough to start applying for dev roles when I had 0 years of experience? So in my case, is a unique experience because I was working at a software company doing technical writing and sort of a business analyst role, and so I would actually see them interview candidates, and they would give them the, like, hey, we need you to reverse a string whiteboard problem, which was their actual problem at the time. Reverse a string without using any like helper functions in like JavaScript, for instance. They were interviewing for front end, and these guys would go up and they would just tank. They couldn't be able to do it, and so I started feeling a little bit more confident then when I could see these developers come in that just had no mastery and could not think and problem solve, and I saw that, and that was a huge signal to me that I was probably getting to the point where I could start applying, where if I'm interviewing, if the people they're interviewing, I could solve the algorithms on the whiteboard and all that sort of stuff, then that was enough for me to start going. And also I started building projects. I could build my own projects and things like that. Any ideas for a good dev related podcast? My coworker has one actually. It's called the Six Figure Dev. I got to go on it eventually. I'd recommend that, as well as the free code camp one, which I just went on a week ago. Thoughts on moving to a new city for better job opportunities before securing a job? My recommendation is just to continue to apply in multiple cities, and then just before you relocate. Did you use your job offers as leverage when renegotiating your contract? So I don't want to talk too much about what I did with my workplace out of respect for them, but what I can say is that the smart thing to do is, if you have other job offers, to renegotiate your contract. Of course, you should use it in renegotiating. So one, they know you're serious, and two, they know what they need to beat. That's the reality of the situation. What's your take on Vue versus React? Will Vue get as big as React, or would you take a job using Vue over React? I personally like Vue better than React. I don't really care one way or the other about it, but I would just look at what the demand for the market is. But Angular, Vue, React, they're all good. You just gotta work with whichever one the market demands. So the thing is, guys, is when you fundamentally understand front end development, JavaScript, and how it works with the HTML, the CSS, you can switch between frameworks in like a day. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So a lot of times when you're just getting started, you focus very heavily on frameworks, but it's not something that you always need to focus on. Is it okay if I'm learning to code so I can build my own products, not necessarily get a job? Yeah, man. You can just, no one's going to tell you not to learn anything if you don't want to work as a developer. You can still learn to code just for fun. And I mean, there's a decent amount of people who, maybe they're maintaining their family's website. They just, for the last 5-10 years, and they finally pull the trigger. Why do people shit so much on Angular? People just really like React, I think, more than anything else. There's nothing really wrong with Angular. Angular is just a much larger framework and does a lot more, but it's very powerful. Angular, if you want to think of it, and TypeScript is sort of like the corporate framework for the front end. So a lot of, and so that's probably why people crap on it. What stack would I recommend to learn? Well, whichever one is in your input. Is Angular still around? Yeah, there's more Angular jobs than React or Vue jobs. If you go and look up stuff, it's just that the gap in hiring right now is there's more openings for React or Vue than there is for Angular. So if you're looking to get a job, your first job, you should probably be focusing on React or Vue over Angular. But there's still a good amount of Angular jobs. But in terms of stack, I mean, it depends what you want to do. Like, what is it that you want to accomplish? What is the worst advice you received? Go to college. What do you think of the new free code camp curriculum? I'm a big fan of it. I actually, tomorrow's video, last weekend I knocked out the JavaScript algorithms and data structures. I do a review of it in tomorrow's video talking about it. So look forward to that. And I'll actually probably release some videos just going through the content later on. I'm wondering, so some of the stuff I've already put videos out. I'm wondering if I should just do a course on like Udemy for $10 where I can go through, through the stuff. Are you basically a senior dev at this point? I mean, I don't have senior in my title. I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a senior dev. I have been told by upper management that they consider me an upper mid to senior developer. I will say that I'm paid like I'm a senior developer. But I mean, There's good senior devs, there's bad senior devs. I don't know. Do with that information what you will. You have a beard for the new Dolan video? Maybe. I have a Dolan video idea. A couple of them. I've just been growing the beard out for a little bit. It feels nice to have a little bit of facial hair, not walking around all baby face. Yeah, no junior tag on the title. Isn't it weird after you tried going back to college to big companies drop the degree requirement? Yeah, I mean, so I had a video talking about essentially how in reality the degree requirement's been dropped for quite some time, and it's just one of those items where you have to understand that. And that was a little bit of the imposter syndrome kicking in, and a little bit of me saying, damn man, I just want to make that portfolio better, I want to make that resume better. And forgetting sometimes it's easy, like we've been so indoctrinated, especially like there's two things in American society that you have to do or you're going to be a crackhead on the streets. One is go to college and two is get married. Like those are the two things that as children we have had pounded into our heads again and again and again and again. Like those are the things that, look, if you don't do these two things, you're going to be unsuccessful. No one's going to love you, and you're going to be miserable. Those are like the two things that have always pounded into your head. And so, even now, not now, after I went back and then stopped, it's been, I feel great. Honestly, it sounds crazy, but the $3,700 I spent, the $3,700 I spent going back to school and then realizing how little value it was going to give me was some of the best money I've ever spent a day in my life. It really was. So, do you code outside of work as much as you used to? I do other things. So like, you can definitely improve your skill set in various ways. So right now I do a lot of reading. I do my YouTube channel, which helps me. I do some projects here or there, but not as much as I used to because I'm spending my time in different ways. Like before I wasn't doing a lot of certifications. I gotta use the bathroom real quick, guys, and I'll continue answering some questions. All right, so what kind of books are you reading? If you're interested in the description below, I actually have some links to the books that I've read and recommend, so you can see. But mainly technical books, high-level technical books on how to up my code level. How do I deal with the stress if you get it? So I one of the reasons I like my workplace is very low stress. Um, I don't really get stressed from work. I get stressed from things outside of work. Like I am more stressed right now than I have been in many, many times in my life, just because of everything that's going on with buying a house, and it's awful, man. Like I'm not doing very well because of it. So, um, but how do I deal with stress? Um, first the first the understanding is you have to understand what stresses you out, right? That's such a the things that stress me out may not stress you out. So what stresses me out? Money. Specifically living paycheck to paycheck. So I always make sure that I have investments. I always make sure that I have cash on hand. I always make sure that I have 3 to 6 months of living expenses covered. That's something I always make sure, and that eliminates a very large portion of my stress. And that also means that I'm eliminating monthly bills. It also means that I don't take on debt, things like that. So I understand clearly what stress I have or what causes me stress, and then I deal with it. So in this case, there's life stuff that's related. So I handle that. Now, if I can't do that and there's other things, how do I go about handling it? I work. I work until I feel comfortable in it. So luckily, with just April and me and the cats, there's very few things that should stress me out. Well, right now, the home buying situation is pretty stressful. But that will pass in a couple weeks. But the honest God answer is I don't have a good answer right now. In the past, it was exercise. I used to exercise a bit, but I haven't been able to find that groove as much as I wanted to. And I was going to the gym like every day for like 3 months, but they started locking it, so that threw my gym schedule off. But the truth of the matter is the hardest part about stress that I've learned is thinking about it and not doing something about it. And what I mean by that is oftentimes it's much more stressful and much more fearful to worry about things instead of just going and tackling the item. So if there's something that's causing me stress, I would prefer just to tackle it head on and knock it out instead of having to worry about it. That's usually what I go about doing it. It's almost like, you ever remember like asking a girl out on a date or something like that, and you have that sort of anxiety about it. In reality, it's not that bad, but the thought of rejection just terrifies you and makes you sick. It's almost like that, where there's things where I'd rather just pull the trigger on it and not have to worry about it. And hey, buddy, and then deal with the repercussions, because the worst case scenarios in your head are never as bad as the reality. And so just go handle it. All right. How do you motivate yourself every day to keep what you're doing? Please let us know. I mean, it's pretty easy once you understand the benefit of doing it. I also, the easy part is I just keep it fun, man. I just do what, I try to keep everything I do fun. That's why I don't worry too much about the things that are out of my control, and the things that I do control, if I can keep them fun and entertaining, I do my best to do that. So I don't, hey buddy, so that I don't get burnt out. What project should a college student work on? You should probably find a long-term side project that you can start working on. Something you're passionate about, something that you'll enjoy, and then go from there. I've been web development for a year, and I can code what I want or find what I want for Stack Overflow, but I'm not sure I'm following the best practices. Any ideas? Yeah, in the description below, there's a book called Clean Code. There's a link down there, and you can help me get like a little 3% cut. But I highly recommend that so that you can learn how to really write code professionally. Let's see, I have I have a Skype video interview during next week for a junior role in software developer. Any advice there? Middle America, I'm in Ireland. Yeah, a couple things. One, be ready to answer the question about if you're willing to relocate, if they're having you relocate. That's definitely something that's going to come up. Two, really sell how eager you are and how you're constantly learning and growing and maturing, and you're passionate, man. That would be what I would suggest for you to do. Some must-have tools in your belt. Yeah, I don't really use any tools. The only tools I really use are Visual Studio Code, and that's it. Or Visual Studio, yeah, Visual Studio Code. There aren't any must-have tools in your belt. I don't have any SEO skills. So whoop. Hey, Tito. What are some things that automatically make you look unprofessional as a developer? There's quite a few. I did a whole video about unprofessionalism. When you're interviewing, it's showing up late and not dressed up at all. Even if it's a casual work environment, you should definitely dress up a little bit. I remember one of the guys that came in before I was a dev. He came in with a hat on and a chain wallet and sandals, and I was just like, "Where does this?" I was just like, "Dude, what's going on with this whole thing right now?" Hat, sandals, and a chain wall. I'll never forget it. Naturally, he couldn't write a for loop on the for the he couldn't reverse a string. So, but say you're in the job, it's definitely not showing up to meetings on time, not respecting other people's time, not meeting your commitments. I mean, there's a whole video I did about it that I talk about that specific subject, the top 10 most unprofessional things. Or yeah, if you show up with the chain wallet, the hat, and the sandals, you better be a boy genius. Like, I don't know. It probably didn't impact him too much, but it was more stunning than anything else. Because I mean, a lot of times when you're trying to get new hires, they're not unemployed, so they're usually coming by on their lunch break or something else, and so usually just see them in their attire. But that was quite the attire, I suppose. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it was interesting to say the least. Tito. This is my cat, man. Just all up on. He's quite literally like all up on top of my shit. In your free code camp podcast, it's great to create YouTube videos about a language you're currently working on. However, should we continue if the views are really low and how to get them back up? I mean, the views, my views are typically pretty low on my videos, but I don't get, companies don't really check out my views. They check out my content. And so they check out that I'm learning and the passion and the quality of the content. So that would be my suggestion to you, is that it's not about the views. It's about you growing as a developer, and the views will come. What's going on, Bradley? by and large, my YouTube channel is a resounding failure. If you were to take how many videos I put up, around 800, and we're barely coming up on 50,000 subscribers. That's quite a bit. Have I started the new job yet? No. I'm staying at my current job. I renegotiated my contract, so I'm staying there and working my way up a little bit. Yep. Ugh. Ugh. But yeah, so I haven't been working too much with Vue lately. We might have some projects coming up in it, so I might work with that. But I've been last few weeks. Last few weeks, I've been focusing on getting finding a house, and now that I found one, I'm going through escrow and the closing process right now, and it's all super stressful. So I was playing around a little with D3. I'm just sort of jumping in and out on things right now. I don't know. I haven't really taken the time to. Um, I've been focusing less on professional growth this last 3 to 4 weeks or so. Still working on stuff. Obviously, I've been putting out videos. I'm reading books. But in terms of sitting down and coding, I just haven't had the time when my weekends are consumed looking at houses and filling out paperwork and all that sort of stuff. Um, you know, so I've had to sort of manage my stress in a different way. I'm gonna stand up a little bit. It's okay, Stinker. Bradley Lockhart says, "Here's a brick for you for the hard work, inspiring my career, and being a beast. 50K. Congratulations." Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, man. It's one of my talking about goals, right? Is the current way my loan is structured, and that may change. We're going to underwriting and all that sort of stuff, but assuming that nothing changes, right? And underwriting signs off on everything, and I'm putting down just 3% for the house. Now I have more money, but like I told you, I like to have that 3 to 6 months buffer. So my next goal, one of my goals, is to within 6 months be up to 20%. So I'll probably be putting 3% of 260 was at about 8 grand or so. So 8 grand. So I'll need to throw if it's 52,000 down on it. So I'll need to do something like about another 45,000 or so to get to that 20%. So that is a large goal of mine to accomplish within the next 6 months. To throw another 45,000 down on it to get to that 20% and drop that PMI. So I do appreciate that 5 pounds, I believe it is. But I mean, this is something that, is that something I'm going to accomplish? More than likely. Is it going to be easy? No. Do I think it's just going to happen whimsically? No. Do I have a plan to accomplish it? Yes. So these are all things. These are all things that I have plans and game plans to accomplish. And they should be accomplishable. You never know what's going to happen in life, right? They could come back from the underwriting and say, "Look, this thing doesn't make sense. We need you to put 10% down. And then all of a sudden your plans are there and you need a higher interest rate or something like. I don't know. See, this is part of the stress of going through this stuff. I have no idea about this stuff, right? But assuming everything does work, which is a big assumption, I have a game plan that I want to accomplish and go from there. So sort of my game plan with the house, if you know anything about me, I don't like debt. And so that's one of the things that stresses me out. So I'm doing a 30-year fixed loan with 3% down. And what I'll be doing is I'll be saving to get to that 20%, eliminate that private mortgage insurance. And then from there, I'll refinance to a 15-year fixed loan. And hopefully once I eliminate the PMI, I'll refinance to a 15-year loan and go from there and get a little bit lower interest rate, more money per month, and hopefully I'll get my credit up and webcam and go from there. But these are all things that I have plans to that I'm working out. So okay, enough about real estate and all that sort of stuff. How to choose what domain we should work on. So a couple things. When talking about what domain to work in is the one that you want to is always a good one. You're going to do better in the field that you enjoy more than the field that you don't. And two, when looking at those fields for consideration, you want to see a couple things. You want to see if there's good growth in it. You want to see if there's a lot of jobs in it, and you want to see if it pays well. So those are that's the 3 or 4 criteria I use when choosing what it is that I want to do. Machine learning, data analytics, blockchain, all these are growing. It's just a great time to get into software, man. And I know a lot of you guys are like, man, I can't get these. I can't get a job. Why is it this so hard? The thing is if you're a good developer, it's a great time to get in. If you're a bad developer, it's always going to be a hard time to get in. So you just have to get good. And once you get good, it becomes really easy. You have nothing to worry. Ooh, sorry, buddy. And you have nothing to worry about. But you have to get good. It's hard. Do you intend to switch to backend in the future? I will switch to whatever discipline is asked of me in the workplace. Although I am a front end developer, I have done full stack, and I'm happy to do back end, and I could be just as successful there. I will say that it does seem like it is harder to find good front end developers than good back-end developers. The reason for that is a lot of times these graduates, when they're coming from college grads, they tend to be taught just the back-end sort of languages and very little front-end. And so a lot of the applicants that you interview for full stack are really back-end developers. And so if needed, I will happily go and jump into the back end or do some full stack. I enjoy it all. I just happen to be better in the front end because that's what I've worked in more so. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind. I was thinking about jumping in DevOps the other day. We had an opening at my work, and I was just like, look, I don't know anything about DevOps, but like, I know it pays well, and I know I like to learn new things, right? Just kind of like me going and doing my the software quality assurance certification. It's not that, it's not that I have any interest in Q&A. It's that I have an interest in everything. And if I get better at quality assurance, I'll get better at my job. I'll get better at what it is that I do in general. And so that's where my interests lie, and I'll continue to progress. Hey, baby. Why is Google Hangout such bad quality? Is it coming back through bad? I mean, it's 720p. You trying to get down, buddy? So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. You're very distracting, by the way.
No.
Yeah. What I think PHP these days, same thing that I've thought about PHP for a while. That although PHP runs about 90% of the web, it's the 90% no one uses. A lot of it is just leftover sites, small businesses, things like that. That's not the case for everything, but it's definitely not the go-to in corporate America. And so if you're learning PHP, chances are you're going to probably make less. And chances are you're going to be working at smaller companies at the end of the day. Can I turn on auto caption? I don't know how to. I'm sorry, man. I don't know how to do that from here. I think that's just something Google has to do. If it's a live stream, I don't know if there is an auto caption. I think you have to wait till post live stream. What I think of Firebase, I think a database as a service is a cool concept. I think it's pretty cool, pretty nice. I've used it on 1 or 2 small projects, like personal projects and doing courses. But from what I can tell, it's very convenient. What do you think would happen to web development in the future? Everything gets automated. It's not gonna happen. I hate this question because it's just an excuse not to get working. It's one of those items where it's quite literally you're just making an excuse why you're not putting the work in to learn and get better. And it's such a fantasy realm sort of thing as well. I don't know, man. I've said this time and time again that even if some aspects of development get automated, the things that what will happen is you'll transition to a more DevOps type role where you're more focused on maintaining the tools to manage that automation than anything else. But it's just not going to happen in our lifetimes. I haven't messed around with GraphQL yet. No, I have not. Mentally, what quality do you have that other developers don't? I would say that I'm hungry to get better at all times. So consistency is something that I think I have for that. So that's my goal, and I'm consistent in chasing that. That would be the thing that separates me from most developers is that although most developers will say that they want to get better, how many are actually doing it? You know, the answer is very few. So are certifications worth it? Certifications are great to get your skills up. They're also great ways to buff your portfolio and your resume. So it's just one aspect of many that should be part of your learning path. You know, I personally think certain certifications are worth it because of the value they provide, not necessarily because you got a certification, right? So like the algorithm and data structures, so tomorrow I'll be talking about that on Free Code Camp. That certification is very valuable, not because a lot of people know what it is, but because of what it helps you learn and what it helps you accomplish and what it helps you become. And it's valuable in that sense. The .NET, look, man, I'll work in it all, man. I don't have a problem. All but PHP. Put that caveat out there. But yeah, I mean, they've been talking about automating development jobs for years, but the truth of the matter is it's not going to happen. And if it does, it's not going to happen overnight, right? Like, I mean, it's like every live stream someone asked me about this, but like take an example for like just cashiers. Cashiers have been slowly being automated for the last 30 years, and they're still cashiers. So it's not something that is going to happen overnight. These are always things that it's a slow rollout, and you'll see it before it happens. So like take front end for example. Okay. All right, look, someone starts automating front end. All right, cool. What can I do about it? I guess I could go do back end. I guess I could go be the automator for the front end. I guess I could go help manage the projects. I guess I could go into mobile. There's just, and anytime automation happens, there's jobs that open up, right? So like there's always things that you can do and transition and your skills. So none of that stuff ever happens overnight. It's not something I even think about. I'm not worried about it at all. It's just people like to think the sky is falling, what to do about it. So, I mean, the short answer is the sky isn't falling. We don't have our jetpacks or flying cars like we were supposed to either. And, it is what it is. If you want to worry about it, worry about it. But it's hard to say that when the tech industry is growing faster than 90% of other industries, and the salaries are high, and the job demand is there, and the job growth is there, and you don't need to go and spend $50K in loans to go and get a degree for it, but yet you're worried about it, right? So it doesn't make a lot of sense. There's very few industries with 2 years experience you can be making over 6 years experience, six figures with no degree. Very few. And software is one of them where you have that luxury if you're good. So just get good and stop worrying about it. Because trust me, if they could automate my stuff for cheap, they would. I'm expensive. You have to look at yourself as a tool. So not only is my salary 6 figures, but usually they say somewhere between 50 to 60% of your salary is actually what you cost, because you have to factor in benefits. That's your that's your time off. That's your health and insurance. That's your 401k. That's your workstation and the rent and what are you doing, Tito? And the Tito, buddy, my cat's about to like unpower my computer if he's not careful. Tito, everybody. You have to worry about those things. So if they could instead find a way to accomplish those things, for less than $150,000, $160,000 a year, they would. The fact of the matter is that doesn't exist, and that's just one person. So I don't know. It's just one of those situations where it's not really a true statement at the end of the day. Yeah. I mean, what's the alternative, right? I mean, if you're truly worried about it, go into a different field. But every field has a risk of some part of their job being automated, right? So construction, for instance, they have machines that can build cement houses. Jesus Christ, cat. So, I mean, this is just, hey, Casey, hello again. But that's just the way of the world. Every field has a case for automation. And some fields, they can be automated, but they don't pay. They don't pay well enough to do it. So, like, some things are the field pays so low that it's not worth it for it to be automated. Buddy, you want up? Come here. Oh, all right. Hey, fucker. What are you scratching me for? It's like bothering me. Come up here and then scratches my shit. I'm panicking for. C# or Java? I'd probably go C#. If you get your first job in C#.net, what is the minimum time I should stay before I look for more dollar bills, y'all? 3 months. If you want the absolute minimum, if you can go and get a fat check, a fat pay raise, being so 15,000 plus, 10,000 plus, I would say 3 to 6 months is the minimum. Some people might say a year, but if you want the absolute minimum, it's whatever you think you can explain as you go and get better. But I would say 6 months to a year is probably pretty good. But I don't know. Yeah. I tend to say 6 months to a year. And if you put in work for 6 months, you can be twice the developer you are, especially at the start of your career if you're putting work in. But don't expect just to get paid more because you have experience. For you to get those pay bumps, for a company to consider you at 6 months experience to pay you like you have 2 years experience, you have to be a 2-year experienced dev, right? So like you're just not going to get a pay bump to get a pay bump. You have to actually be better. So if you're better, then you can get those pay bumps at the end of the day. So anyhow, guys, it has been a pleasure. We're almost to that 50K, which is this is what the bonus live stream is for. We do one of these every week. Try to release 2 videos a week as well. So if you're interested in helping me out right now, might I recommend for your interviews that you're out there that you can go and study with my 100 algorithm challenge course. This was my JavaScript course. It's in the description below. You can get for $10, I think, for the 100 algorithm and $14.99 for the JavaScript. And you can help me out in the process. Going through a lot of stuff right now, trying to get the house. Any little bit helps. I appreciate you all. I need to save my voice because in about 45 minutes, I have an hour mentoring session with one of you subscribers who have decided to book an hour of my time to provide value to you, which I also do. So if you want a one-on-one sort of thing, I do that. It's about 2.5 times my hourly rate, so it's going to cost you $125, which is pricey for a lot of people learning. But if that's something you want, feel free to send me an email and we can set it up and go from there. So I appreciate you all. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share. Check out tomorrow's video as well. And if you're interested in any books or anything I recommend, they're all in the description below. See you guys next time. Bye.